Welcome to another Sunday WOAY ABC4 Community Forum, where we talk to community leaders and local success stories to discuss important information that affects all of us here in Southern West Virginia. I'm your host, Brandy Lawrence. And today we are joined by another distinguished guest. Scott Miller from Just for Kids joins us this morning. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Of course, definitely. And for the people out there, can you give a little bit of background about Just for Kids and your organization's mission?
Sure. So Just for Kids serves Raleigh and Fayette counties, and we're one of 21 child advocacy centers in West Virginia. And we work as a team with local law enforcement, child protective services, and the prosecutor's office. So when they get a call on a child abuse case, they call us, and we have trained forensic interviewers that interview the child. We have an advocate that works with the family, and then a counselor if the child does disclose abuse, that we can offer free counseling to those children and their families to help them through this process. It's a model that's been around for about 35 years. We've been an organization for 20 years now, and we serve about 300 families a year right here in the two counties. We have an office in Beckley and an office in Oak Hill.
Wonderful, yeah, and thank you so much, for your service, because it's a really important, thing that you do, and I see that you're actually expanding. You just got the Ambrosia, and what do you plan to do with that?
So we moved in March. We purchased it a little over a year now. Hard to believe, time just flies. But we were in an office building, and what we know to be true is that really our work is about reducing trauma for the children that we serve. And when a child comes to an office building, has to get in an elevator, sometimes that can be very frightening and confining, and so that increases their trauma. So we've wanted to have a more home-like setting to serve the kids. And so when the Ambrosia Inn in Beckley went up for sale, we were able to purchase it. And so now we've been in there, and it's just amazing to see the difference for the children. They're much more open. They're telling a story that's probably the hardest story for them to tell. And they come in, and we have a play area, and you can just see that they're much more relaxed and comfortable. And that's really our job. And so being there really does that. And a benefit that we didn't realize was that the staff, our staff, and our team members, law enforcement, child protective services, when they come, they're more relaxed. And so everybody is doing their job a little bit better, and we are seeing outcomes that give us hope, certainly that children are healing in better ways, but also in terms of prosecutorially, for years, and one of the reasons the movement started was that children were not seen as credible witnesses. And so this process allows us to videotape this conversation. It can be used in court. And so now the juries and judges are seeing that these are stories that are really true. These are experiences that have happened to these children. And so we're seeing convictions now in Fayette County. Last week, I believe, there was a case that there was convictions on a child sexual abuse case. In Raleigh County, we've had 5 or 6 cases over the last year. So this gives us hope that the model works, that kids are really getting what they need out of it, and we're doing our job. And the Ambrosia Inn really gives us that opportunity. Another piece that we hadn't even thought about was kids love to play. I mean, that's really their job. And we have 2 acres of land there, and we were able to put in a play area. And we see, of course, not this time of year so much, but in the summer, they see that playground and their eyes light up, and they have the opportunity to be out there some. Our counselor, we've had a number of times where children have been in her office and they look out the window and they say, "Can we go outside?" Well, of course. So those opportunities don't happen in an office building. And so that's given us this opportunity for kids. It's a little bit of a struggle for us. It was a fairly large investment. We have started a capital campaign, and we're happy to say that we're 80%. It's a 3-year campaign, and we just finished our first year, and we've already raised over $400,000. It's a $500,000 campaign, so we still have $100,000 to go, but we're getting there, and we're sure that we will get there. But and thanks to the community for that, because it really takes the community to support what we do. We are a nonprofit. We do get about half of our budget through state and federal funds, but we have to raise over $300,000 a year just to keep us going. And every penny counts, and we've, of course, have had great support all throughout the community.
Definitely, yeah. You do really important work, and I really enjoyed that, you said that a lot of these are not taken as seriously as much because they are children and not seen as credible witnesses. And yet children are not as protected as much as they should be. So the work you do is absolutely important. And the people out there, if anybody wanted to, help or donate or do anything, how could they do that? How could they be a part?
So there's a number of ways. Our website now is becoming sort of our hub for that, for donations. We're at jfkwv.com, and we have a donations page, and we have a number of ways to give, because we know that some people can only give $1 or $5, and some people can give $20,000. And so we have those opportunities. We have a brick. You can purchase a brick. You can purchase a pinwheel. You can name a room at our house. And we just in January, we have the sneaker drive. And it's been really successful so far. We have 20 boxes in different locations in Raleigh and Fayette County. And people can just drop off their used sneakers. So you can give away your old sneakers, or if they've stopped, they don't fit, or your kids have grown out of them. And we've already received over 70 pairs. There's a company out of Florida, and we ship them to them, and then we get between 50 cents if they're really in rough shape to $7 a pair. So it's not a big fundraiser, but again, we really encourage the community to support our work, because when a person does that, it's saying a few things. One, we care about kids. Two, we want to protect our kids. So the more that adults in the community understand that child sexual abuse and all the different other abuses that happen to kids, they can make a difference. It's not the kid's fault that it happens, and sometimes as adults, we can protect kids by just saying, hey mom, you have a new babysitter. Did you ask your neighbor to come and check on them after you left? Or did you call home to see if everything's going all right, if you can talk to your kids about it? So simple things that we can offer to every adult in the community. And we have an outreach. Another piece that I didn't talk about is we have somebody that can do trainings with people in the community. So anytime we have contact, we can talk about any of these pieces. Another piece, simple. Your child has music lessons. Well, there's a one-on-one adult and a child. Well, you ask the teacher, can I come and drop in? If they say absolutely not, maybe that's not somebody you want to have your child have a music lesson with. So those sorts of things. And so the community, knowing that there are people out there who care, we know that if they do give us a donation or sneakers or whatever, so it really works in some way both ways to really make a difference in the community, and that's what we care about.
Definitely, because you're being proactive, with outreach. Exactly. And stopping this before it even has a chance to transpire. Mm-hmm. And then you're also helping survivors of this as well. So it's just wonderful.
Well, thank you.
You're doing. And I do see that you all have events often. You just talked about the sneaker drive as well, and that is also kind of a double whammy because it's helping people recycle too.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. This company says, even the used beat-up sneakers, they chip into plastic, and I guess there's a company that makes something out of the rubber or whatever, and we get a minimal for that. And actually, Destiny, our advocate, who's sort of in charge of the drive, has said that most of the sneakers that are being donated are look brand new. So people are, they're doing it for us and for the kids, and that makes a real big difference for us. So we're excited about that. The outreach advocate now is really focusing on the schools in two ways. One is working with the teachers. What we know is that every teacher is a mandated reporter, but they don't always know what that really means. And so we have a training that helps them to understand, how do you listen to a child if they're going to tell? Because what we know is, if a child tells an adult and the adult ignores them or says, oh, that couldn't have happened or whatever, that child is not likely to tell anybody else. Not that a teacher is going to say that, but there's a lot of little pieces that make a difference that we can help teachers understand. So if a child does come to them, they can report it, and then hopefully, whatever comes next comes next. And so she's working with the schools. She's talked to every principal in Fayette County, and she's working in Raleigh County now. The other piece is working with the students, because what we know is that young children particularly, they don't know what's right and wrong. And so what used to be called good touch, bad touch, which is a really simple way of just saying, here are the places nobody should touch you. Simple. But if you don't teach that, kids don't know. And so we're trying to also have some presence in classrooms, and that will make a difference as well. So there's a lot of work. There's always more that we can do, but we're excited that the school system's very interested in having us involved. We're partnering with AWAY, what used to be the Women's Resource Center, because domestic violence and child abuse are often hand in hand, and so we work very closely with them, and so they're working with us in the schools. So it's exciting to see that, again, that the community is interested, that they're very willing to support the work that we do. We're always, again, looking for support to, because everybody can make a difference in this work.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for the people out there that want to get involved, can you look at this camera here and plug the number and the website?
So our office number is 304-255-4834. Our website is jfkwv.com. And we have a Facebook page. It's just for kids. And we put a lot of information up there. And what else? What other... I think that, that's it in terms of our location and all. If you do need to report, though, we don't take reports directly. So they have to call the 800 number.
Gotcha. All right, well, that was the first half of our community forum. Come back for the second half, where I speak more with Scott Miller from Just for Kids and talk more about these important issues in our community. All right, welcome back to Sunday Community Forum. I'm here with Scott Miller from Just for Kids, and we're talking about, a lot of the important things that their organization does. And before we went off to our first break, we were talking about reporting abuse, and you said that it's not through Just for Kids, but there is somewhere else that they can, report any abuse.
Yes, so anybody can make a report to the West Virginia hotline, and that's a centralized intake, and so they look at those reports and then they send them to the appropriate agency, typically Child Protective Services or the state police, and so then they talk to us. And the reason that we don't take calls directly is more of a legal issue, because if a parent calls and says, I need you to interview my child, legally that gets into some issues that can muddy the waters down the road. So if Child Protective Services calls us, we know that that's, in terms of the legal chain of custody of information, it's tight and it works in terms of protecting the child. And so people could call, and the number is 800-352-6153, and that's a 24-hour line. It takes about 15 minutes. It can be an anonymous call. You don't have to provide your name. What we do know is that it takes courage to report. It may be your neighbor. It may be a family member. And the important thing to know is that you're not saying that something happened. You're reporting an incident. And it doesn't have to be something that you saw. It can be a suspicion of abuse. What happens then is that people who are trained, and we have a team, it's called a multidisciplinary investigative team. So it goes through Child Protective Services. They will go and do an interview in the home. And again, they have years of experience looking at, maybe it's not abuse. I mean, maybe you heard a child screaming, and so you call. And maybe they fell and they hurt themselves. That's not going to, there's no punishment for that. So it's really a process that allows experts who understand this to look into it and make a determination if there was abuse that occurred. So you're not condemning somebody by making a report. You're just saying, this is what I heard. And then you allow the process to happen. And oftentimes there are issues that are there that can be ameliorated without going to court. And sometimes there are serious issues. What I know and I hear all the time is, really? Child sexual abuse is a real issue? I know it happens sometimes. But what we know is that it's huge. In West Virginia, and the study just came out last week, a data report across the state, we did 4,800 interviews last year across the state. And that sounds like a lot, but what we know is only 1 in 10 children report abuse. So it's likely that there are 40,000 children who are being abused every year in West Virginia. So it's not a tiny little problem. It is major. And the people who commit this abuse, these perpetrators, are very good at hiding it. And so when you have a suspicion, it's worth looking at. It really is. And as I said, it takes courage to do it. It takes a lot of courage for a child to come forward. And it takes as much courage, I think, for an adult to do it as well. But it's it's so important for the kids to do that.
Absolutely. And as you stated, it's difficult for adults to come forward, and some of them are, even scared to come forward with the abuse that they've suffered. So you can imagine, it's much more terrifying for a child. And yes. It's just a really great work that you all are doing. And are there any other, events that you have coming up to, get out to the community?
Sure. So in April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. We do a number of things during that month, of course, to highlight, and interestingly, as everything else, things change. We used to sort of talk about the suffering and how many children have been abused, but we really are looking towards the promise and the hope of the future. So we have a pinwheel campaign, which is a symbol of hope, and everybody who sees a pinwheel lights up and wants to. So it's saying, what can we do to protect our families, to increase the quality of life for children? So it's things like spend more time with your child, read books to your children, have those opportunities to really build the household, build resilience for the child. So we have that pinwheel campaign. But we also do our Champions of Children event every April. We honor people in the community, from the CPS workers and law enforcement officers to folks who've donated to us, to other social workers, teachers, people in the community who've supported us over the years, some of our staff. And we've done this for over 12 years, so we try and honor 4 or 5 people every year. We have an event. Last few years we've done it at Tamarack. We haven't, of course, during COVID. We didn't do it for 2 years, but we did have it last year, and it's a great time to learn a little bit more. We typically try and have somebody who is a survivor, an adult survivor who can tell a story that can, really touch our hearts, because that's what it takes. There's lots of organizations out there that, are worthy causes and important, but when this is a story that everybody can relate to. And I tell this all the time. I haven't met one person who says, oh, that's not a good idea what you do. I've worked in a number of other social justice organizations, and there's often, two sides to this story. But there's not another side. No one can, I literally have never talked to somebody who said, oh, child sexual abuse, oh, that's a good thing, right? So we all know it, but what can we do about it? And supporting our work and the work, around the state is important and valuable. Something that we're working on now is that we really see ourselves as an essential service to the process. Law enforcement, Child Protective Services has their place, and of course for years they were the only ones doing this work. Well, we support that work, and yet we have to raise a lot of our funds, whereas they don't have to raise their funds. So raising that awareness through Champions of Children, through the Pinwheel campaign, are ways to do that. And so, we'd love to have the community involved that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. As you said, a lot of people are not going to, say that what you're doing is not the right thing. So I'm sure you have a lot of champions to choose from each year. Like, what's the process like for that?
Well, we talk to our teams. So we have a team in Fayette County and a team in Raleigh County, which again, is made up of law enforcement, Child Protective Services, the prosecutor's office, and we talk to them about who do they think. And then our board of directors and my staff just take all those names and look at it, and then we choose. And it's been so heartwarming to me over the years. A former prosecuting attorney in Fayette County was named a champion, it's been 4 or 5 years ago, and he said it was the first time that he had been honored in any way, and it meant so much to him. To us it's sort of something we do every year, and it's a nice thing, but just to see how much it meant to him, and particularly Child Protective Service workers never are elevated in that way, and just to see what it means to them to get this award it is so important, because they're not given praise for what they do. It's hard work, and sure, lots of people put them down, but they really need to be raised up. And so it's really nice to be able to do that for folks in the community.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of social work and CPS workers, they have a lot of cases. And a lot of things sometimes fall through the cracks, and it's no fault of their own. So you're also like helping out with that too, advocating for other people and victims. And sometimes it might be the people that they can't get. So yeah, they definitely should be recognized, and it's really great that you're doing that and recognizing them as champions for the children, because they really are. So. And yeah, we talked about April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Is there anything else, you have coming up, or, just kind of going through with the sneaker drive and things? I think that was something else I forgot to ask. Are there any, boxes or places that they should go to, give the sneakers? Because I know I have plenty myself that I could donate to you.
Okay, cool. They are located, I have a list here. I think there's 23 locations. In Fayette County, they're at Activated Body Studio, New River Bikes, Magnolia Ladies Boutique, Aurora Coffee and More, and The Takeout. In Raleigh County, they're at the Carl Larson Cancer Center, Hospice of Southern West Virginia, Tim Cyrus State Farm, Trent Insurance Services, Balanced Life Studio, Weathered Ground Brewery, Erna Bird Center, On Point Health and Wellness, FMRS, The Y, the Raleigh Center, Arsenal Training Center, Kenzie's Cakes, Daniel Vineyards, the Dish Cafe, Shady Spring Library, and at our office at the Ambrosia Inn, which is now called Trudy's House. So those are the locations. I think something else, and it's an area that we know supports us. We've had lots of support from churches locally, but we are going to be working on specific campaigns to work with churches, because we know how, that's what church is all about. And so we want to work directly with churches to support the work that we do and get the word out. And so that's another piece that we're working on now.
Definitely. And is there anything else you want the people to know before we sign off here? About Just for Kids and how they can get involved and why they should be involved. This important work.
It is important work, and I think we have a workshop called Stewards of Children. Lots of children words. It is a nationally developed training. It's a 2-hour training, and we really like to do it in the community with community groups. We've done it with a lot of child care centers. We have done it at a couple of churches with Energy Express. But any group that is interested, 5 to 10 people minimum, just because there's a lot of conversation that happens. But what that program says is that for every adult trained, 10 children will not experience abuse. So that's a really uplifting and exciting piece of news. And so we really encourage, from garden clubs to bowling groups to anybody, to take advantage of that. We have trained facilitators who can offer that work. We do it typically with the nursing programs in the area, because what we know is that children report, the people that they report it to tell their story. First, of course, is a trusted family member, but then it's to a teacher, and then it's to a doctor or a nurse. So those are the folks that we really encourage, to get this sort of training. So that's what I'd say.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for joining us for Community Forum this time. Thank you to Scott Miller and Just for Kids. And